You are now tuned into the Cut Game radio show hosted by Groom City.
With the Cut Game radio show, we let them know we stay true
To the Cut Game.
Yeah, that's how we do. It's the Cut Game radio show, we let them know we stay true
To the Cut Game.
Yeah, that's how we do. It's the Cut Game radio show, we let them know we stay true
To the Cut Game.
Yeah, that's how we do.
The Cut Game radio show hosted by Groom City.
That's how we do.
Hey, what's going on? It's Groom City, and you are now tuned in to the Cut Game Radio Show, #1 podcast for your hair needs. And today we have an amazing guest on the phone. But before we introduce today's guest, let me just give a shout out to any and everybody out there that's been tuning in to the Cut Game Radio Show and that's been supporting us on our platforms. We salute you. Now, you have the barber industry and you have social media. And when barbers started posting their work on social media, we set the world on fire. We gave everyone a bird's eye view on the art and science of barbering. And throughout all that process, some barbers just stood out. And today, our guest is one of them. Maybe it was his style that made him stand out. Maybe it's the fact that he created the 4 a.m. fade. Maybe it's the fact that his signature gold pen can be seen on barbers all over the world. Or maybe it's the fact that he got cut game. Today, we have none other than Scott Ramos, aka Famos, on the Cut Game Radio Show. What's going on, Famos?
Yo, what up, bro? It's good.
Oh man, chilling, man. Thank you for blessing us on the Cut Game Radio Show with your presence.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. So, man, today I got you on the podcast and I gotta pick your brain. But before we do that, we gotta take them all the way back, man, all the way to the soil. So, where were you born?
I was born in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada.
Okay, what year?
1989, March
89.
1st.
A lot of us, we not even familiar with Canada. So, how was Winnipeg back then?
Winnipeg back then, I mean, it's a lot different now, but just how you guys go by states, we go by provinces. So, I live in the province of Manitoba, and the city of Winnipeg is the main city. So, growing up, I was always watching American sports, basketball, music videos. And these are all on Canadian channels, and just always been influenced and inspired by things I've seen on TV. And most of it was American stuff.
Like what? Give us an example.
Like Usher, Jordan, all NBA stuff. I used to like boy bands like NSYNC. JT was like a huge inspiration to me. Just by the way he dressed, and I just loved his music a lot, and those are all like the little things that I noticed as a kid, were how people dress and how they wore their hair.
How was the neighborhood though? How was Winnipeg back then?
It was quiet. I was actually the only Asian kid in my class till about grade 5.
So being the only Asian kid, like, how did that make you feel?
I was kind of felt left out, to be honest. But I definitely always stood out in class. Like, my teachers always noticed that I was one of the more creative kids.
Were you a good student in school?
My marks weren't the greatest just because I did skip a lot of classes.
No, we talking about high school right now, right?
Junior high and high school, I was skipping a lot of classes.
Why you think you were skipping classes?
I don't know. I just all these things that I was learning in class, I was just like, I feel like I just didn't need these things. And at the same time, I would skip class to go home, get high. I'd just smoke a little bit of weed and I'd just cut all my friends' hair.
Dang. So during your childhood, did you frequent the barbershop in Winnipeg?
We actually didn't really have like a barbershop like that. That's the only type of stuff I'd see on TV. But we did have like a Filipino hair salon, and like all the hairstylists are like these dudes, and they're very flamboyant, and every Filipino had the same haircut. It was like a number 2, and you had to make sure that you had the pointy sideburns. I had the ice picks, and then from there, that was when I was like, man, these sideburns are dope. So I'd practice these sideburns on myself, because my mom had a set of clippers at home. And that's really how I started getting into it. And I was Started cutting all my homies' hair. I skip school. They come over my parents' basement or upstairs or wherever I was set up, and I would just cut, and then just keep cutting, and then the word of mouth spread. And next you know, I'm like the barber in my high school.
Okay, so what made you take to barbering so early?
It was just kind of more, like I said, like what I'd see on TV. So I'd see Usher, he had this fresh lineup, but I didn't know it was called a lineup. I was like, how does his hairline look like that? Again, these just little details that not your average kid would notice, but he looks cool with it, so that's what I wanted. So I started, practicing on myself. The back of my neck was always a little fuzzy, but just as long as my sideburns were nice and pointed and I had the nice box squared up in the front,
Yeah.
that's when everyone was like, yo, bro, like, where'd you get that done? I was like, man, I did it on myself. So what sparked an interest, seeing something on TV. So I started practicing on myself. I was trying to tell my other barber to do that, and then next thing you know, I'm just cutting myself full time and all my friends.
Wow. And it's crazy that growing up in America, I've always been around the barber culture. Just in my childhood, just getting groomed, going with my dad. But it's just crazy to hear a different perspective. You couldn't go out and just show your barber, hey, this the Usher cut, because, it's something you had to create yourself.
But yeah, definitely, man, like surrounded by these barbershops, and the lineup was just everyday, like it's something natural to you. But when I seen it on TV, I didn't even know it was called a lineup. I didn't even know a taper was called a taper, but I noticed there's a little fade on the sideburn and a fade on the back. So there's three fades on the head. And I would call it actually the Cali fade.
Wow.
Telling all my clients, I'm like, yo, do you want the Cali fade? I was watching I forgot what this show was called, but it was like 3 Guido kids, and they had like the blowout with like the spiky hair.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot the name of the show, but I noticed their fades. They had like the really tapered back and scooped out, and then they spiked the hair. So then, and my mom lived in LA, so whenever I go visit her, I notice everyone with these little tapers. I call it the Cali fade, and it's funny because my homies that I used to give the Cali fade to back in the day, but they'll still ask for that, even though I'm like, yo, it's called a taper, bro. And they're like, nah, Cali fade, the Cali fade. I'm like, all right, cool.
How long have you been cutting so far?
So I'm 28 now. I registered into hair school when I was 17, so that was 11 years ago, which is crazy to think about. But the first time I picked up a set of clippers, I was about 12.
And you still have clients coming to you right now that you was cutting when you were 12 years old?
Yeah, I have a handful of guys that surprisingly trusted me with their hair at such a young age.
So you said you went to hair school at 17 years old. What made you go to hair school?
So going back to an earlier question you had, like what kind of student I was in high school. Again, his teachers always saw me around there, but then they wouldn't see me in class. But they see me in art class. But then they see my haircuts everywhere. And the vice principal, Mr. Carter, he actually pulled me aside. He's like, yo, you're like the talk of the staff room. All the teachers are always talking about you, good and bad. Most of the time bad, but a lot of them are just, a lot of the time they're just angry because they see your potential, but they're just more disappointed in you. But then a lot of them are like, no, he has a future, but something in like the creative world, and my haircuts are everywhere. So he actually pulled me aside and he's like, yo, man, there's this program. It's called Winnipeg Technical College, and it's a college filled with trades. So there's carpentry, hair, culinary arts, just a bunch of different shit. So he's like, there's a hairstyling program. I was like, nah, that's gay. I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. Just because like the stereotype of a guy cutting hair in my city back in the day, because there's no like barbershops, is like you're homosexual or whatever, So I was like, nah, like it's all good. I'm just gonna cut out of my basement for fun, and I'm not gonna take it serious. But eventually I was just like, you know what, man, like I had like a full week to think about it, and all my friends are telling me they want to be a doctor, they want to be this, they want to be that, a dentist. Everyone had like a goal, and I was like, man, I need to do something with my life. And I love cutting hair, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take this hairstyling program. So I took it. Come in, I was halftime high school, and then at lunch I hopped on a bus and it took me to this college where I didn't know anybody. Now I'm in this hairstyling program, cosmetology, where I'm learning women's hair, nails, and makeup. And I'm the only guy in the class. And guess what? All the other students in all the mechanics class and the cooking class and the graphics class, everyone walks by to creep on the girls. Mind you, I was in the class so I could creep on the girls. But a lot of the guys, they made fun of me and they pointed and laughed at me because I was in this hairstyling program. They would throw food at me, and like I was always one of like the more cooler, the popular kids in my school. But now I'm in this brand new college. I didn't know nobody, and they made fun of me because I wanted to do hair. So I felt very discouraged at that age, and I actually dropped out of hair school. And I was like, oh, I wish there was a barbering program. I don't want people to think I'm like, I don't want people to throw food at me or think I'm this. Like, I was very concerned about what other people thought, but it was like, this is all I had. So thank God for my family and their support. And they're like, you know, Scott, this is what you want to do, just do it. That's why when I look back to where it is now, and I actually go visit my school and I see guys in there, I see a lot of guys in that same classroom I was in, and they look cool in there. You know what I mean? And it's like that makes me happy to see that they didn't have to go through what I went through. But I'm kind of just going way beyond my answer to your question here. But.
Nah, we good. It's a dope conversation. Was it hard enrolling back into the program?
No, I just went back. My teachers understood why I felt uncomfortable there and like kind of like a bit emotional. And I was like, I finally thought I found something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and people are making fun of me for it. So no, I don't want to do this. You know, so to get the courage to go back to school and finish. Now that I look back, I'm very grateful for those moments. You know.
No, definitely. Like we speak on this podcast, a lot of times when people hate on you and just throwing a lot of negativity, it seems to elevate you and it seems to push you in a position where God needs you to be. It's weird, but sometimes hate is a blessing. Sometimes it's a blessing. It's needed for you to be uncomfortable so you can elevate.
Exactly.
So you graduate the hair school. Is there a state board test in Canada?
So much like high school, my hair school program was paid for because I was taking it through high school. So I was still being that same kid, just sleeping in, sometimes not showing up to class. So it actually took me a couple months longer to finish the program. But eventually, like, the teacher was just like, yo, Scott, like, here's your hours. You're done school. Congratulations. Now use your talent and just, here's a couple salons I want you to go apply at. So literally right when I was done school, worked in a salon. I got all my apprenticeship hours. I know it works a lot different out here.
Mm-hmm.
So you need like 2 years of apprenticeship. And then during the apprenticeship, you get minimum plus like 20 or 30%. Either that or commission, whatever works out to be higher. And then from there, my homies just opened a clothing store like, it was like 5 or 6 years ago. This is when I was working in the first salon I ever worked at, called Burns and Black. Super high-end women's salon here in my city. And the clothing store that I was going to work at, I was like, you know what? Just let me take my test. I'm almost done my hours. Wait till I take my test. And then I'm going to go and rent out that little space on top of your clothing store. So I'm actually grateful for that because that really helped push me to want to get my full, it's called a Red Seal. So basically this Red Seal certification allows me to cut legally within Canada. And I got that Red Seal in 2013.
Wow. So in Winnipeg, you like trailblazing in regards to barbering.
It's crazy how you call me, how you said that, because my girl called me a trailblazer.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting from the interview. You trailblazing.
Yeah.
You trailblazing. So when you rent that space above your friend's clothing store, how many chairs did you have in there?
Well, the thing is, I was going to rent, but then right when I got my Red Seal, I kind of went with my gut and I was praying about it, and it didn't feel like the right move for me. So, you know, me and my friend, we had a bit of a falling out. We're all good now, but shortly after that, I got an opportunity and I got offered a job in Montreal to work at a notorious barbershop. And that was definitely a turning point in my career, moving to Montreal and working there. So
Now, how far is Montreal from Winnipeg?
Montreal from Winnipeg, if you drove, it's 30 hours, but if you fly, it's like 2.5.
So you just uprooted from Winnipeg and moved straight to Montreal.
Yep.
Also, notorious, that must have been a bomb situation because that's pretty big to just leave 30 hours away. Pretty sure, I don't know how your housing situation was. I know you had a job, but it's a pretty big decision you made.
Honestly, bro, when I was working at that salon, it was a commission salon.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, every single job I had before that, I actually left it out of my story. I did work in this one African barbershop. It was 2 chairs. But I was just like, I worked there for like 2 weeks, but that was a commission job. I worked at the salon for 4 years, commission. Working commission sucks because you see, when I get my check, I only get half of what I should have made, you know?
Yeah.
But it made me work that much harder. So I made sure that I was fully booked every day and my checks came out as high as they could be. But at the same time, that salon was making thousands of dollars off me a month when I'm like, man, just let me pay chair rental. But that's not how it works because it's business. You have to respect the business. So that being said, I was always cutting hair in my parents' basement still or in the living room before or after my shift, mostly after my shift. So now I'm working like 12 to 14 hour days. And yeah, like I was making decent money, but I'm tired all the time. My relationship at the time didn't, always fighting. Even my family, they're like, man, you gotta start having all these people here late at night. So my move to Montreal was basically like, I need to I'm like damn near depressed. Like I'm not happy with my situation. I'm always catering to people. I suck at saying no. I'm too nice. And I'm not making the money that I should. And I was like, got this opportunity. I felt like happened for a reason. So I was like, yo, I'm out. I had a going away party and I just dipped and I moved to Montreal. And the first 2 weeks when I was in Montreal, I was like, this is actually probably the worst decision I've ever made because I'm used to cutting like 20 plus heads a day. Yeah. And I moved to this new city. No one knows who I am. And, my first day of work, I cut 0 people. Second day of work, cut 0 people. I cut like 2 or 3 heads that week.
Wow.
Yeah. So now I'm like, whoa, what did I just do? Why did I come here? Then I'm like, yo, you know what? This is the best barbershop they have in the city. And I'm pretty good at cutting hair. And I moved here for a reason. So, I'm going to take over the city. Started going to all the clubs. Made some dope-ass little business cards. Flashing my IG. I was like almost at 10K followers. I'm like, yo, this is my Instagram, this is my cuts. I moved here, listen, like first haircuts on me. And I was grinding, going to all the biggest restaurants, all the clubs. So that's how I started to build this clientele. And next thing you know, a couple months in, I'm the busiest guy there. We're making crazy buzz. The guys that own it are two celebrities. So every time they have their celebrity homies in town, I'm cutting all their hair. I'm getting all that type of stuff. And I was able, from there, go to all these big trade shows that have nothing to do with barbering, but more in like the fashion field. Because one of the owners, his name's Corey Shapiro, and he's at Vintage Frames on Instagram. Mm-hmm. So every time we go to these big trade shows, I'm always like the traveling barber. So I got to make a lot of connections, a lot of friends that I still have to this day. And I took over that city within a year.
Now I'm going to backtrack a little bit. How was your living situation when you moved from Winnipeg to Montreal?
Well, it was actually really good because Corey owns a couple apartments. Mm-hmm. So obviously before I moved out there, I'm like, yo, fam, like if I move out there, I want to make sure I have a place to stay. So his Jewish ass, smart, he's like, yo, actually, I have some apartments that I own. When you move here, you can live in one of them. I'm like, oh yeah, for free? He's like, no, you have to pay rent. I obviously got it at a good price, So yeah. I went out there, moved into a nice little apartment, old school Montreal style, and the shop was walking distance. So my situation was good. I left my car back here in Winnipeg, gave it to my dad. My pops is cruising my little Acura TL, and yeah, it was dope, man. It was like probably the best 2 years of my life was in Montreal.
That's what's up. So, how different is the city of Montreal to Winnipeg?
Montreal is just more. Montreal's say it's like a little France. They say Toronto is like the New York of Canada, but kind of get those vibes too in Montreal, man. Like,
So the city had a lot of movement to it.
a lot of movement. All these little dope hole-in-the-wall restaurants. There's this one restaurant. It's called Joe Beef. It's the smallest restaurant you'll ever see. All of the whole menus on the wall, written on the wall in chalk and really sloppy, but it's hella bougie. Like you go there and there's lobster spaghetti that's like $60, and it's like a super famous restaurant. And everyone wants to go there to eat. And you have to book an appointment like a week in advance. But when I showed up there, I was like, what the hell? Like, this place is tiny. Like, why is it so popular? But in Montreal, any idea that they had, any restaurant they opened, any clothing store, it was always dope. And like, I don't know, I was super inspired by all of the business owners. All of my clients, most of them, they all had Rolexes. I'm like, what do you do? I'm like, what do you do, man? Like, oh, I own this. So I'm like, yo, dope. I'm like, I'll trade you this haircut for a free meal. So then I go check out the restaurant and I hang out with them. I'm like, yo, how'd you do this? So I'm like, now picking the brains of like other, like non-barbers, but still business owners.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was just a dope city. It was always busy, always popping. Like I said before, all of Corey's homies are like Fabulous and like Bruno Mars and stuff like that. So when we had these celebrities come in town, I'm like the low-key fanboy.
So being in Notorious, you say you were there for 2.5 years. What made you leave Notorious?
So moving to Montreal, I was now closer to New York, and I always wanted to go to New York. You started seeing these barber battles. I'm like, what the hell's a barber battle? But I see videos of them. I'm like, fuck, this shit looks crazy. Like, I need to go to one of these things,
Yeah.
And backtracking a little bit to when I was working at the hair salon before I moved to Montreal, this app called Pacino's came out. Like if I was playing ball and I was in college or whatever, like you would look up to a certain basketball player, or if I made music, I would look up to a certain musician. But like, I'm a barber, and there's a couple barbers that I followed on YouTube, but all of a sudden this Pacino's guy, I'm like, man, this is like my Jordan to me.
Yeah.
This guy's cut this guy, this guy's cut this guy. Now he has an app. I used my mom's credit card. I bought this Pacino's app and saved up some money from product sales. Got to meet Pacino's, and that was like a little taste of going to the U.S. and networking with some barbers. So when I was living in Montreal, I was like, man, I got to go to New York. Hopped on a bus, went to New York, and I just show up at this bar battle by myself. Everyone's like, yo, you're that Famos guy. Yeah, what's up, blah, blah, blah. And then I got invited to cut at Charlie's and Showcase, and then saw Pacino's there again. He's like, yo, Famos, yo, good to see you again. So I'm like, yo, man, I gotta keep going to these things.
Yeah.
I gotta keep going to these bar battles. Linked up with Curtis Smith. Curtis is like, yo, Famos, you're dope. Curtis put me on one of his tours. I taught with him. I'm like, yo, Curtis cut Usher's hair. This is Usher's barber, and Usher is one of the main reasons why I got into cutting hair. And I'm like, yo, this social networking shit's crazy. And I started to do a lot of tours, started to get a lot of gigs, and I was always leaving work. And it was like always kind of an issue, like I'm the main barber and I'm leaving all the time. So just to respectfully tell my ex-boss, and I'm like, you know what, man, like I think it's time for my next move, bro. And I just got asked to go on this world tour with Pacino's, and I don't want to leave you hanging. So I gave him a month's notice. I strongly believe in, like, I don't like burning bridges. So that's why I gave him a full month's notice. I found a replacement barber, and I left respectfully. And I went straight on tour with Pacino's.
Y'all went on tour for a whole year?
No, not for a whole year, but it was a whole summer, bro. It was we did like 30 plus cities and 3 countries.
Now, how was that experience? Take us there. How is it touring as a barber?
It's not what everyone thinks it is, but it's also what everyone thinks it is, if that makes any sense. Like, waking up super early to go drive X amount of hours to the next city, and we all take turns driving. And by the time we get to that city, we set up for the class, go up to the room, change, come back down and teach. And it's dope but at the same time, it's like no one understands like the amount of work, the amount of time and energy that goes behind every single class. And, like, we literally just got here. We drove 8 hours to get here. We just got here. Now we're teaching. So that part was like physically and mentally draining, but for the amount of people that actually come to the class in every city, me and Diego and Lena Pichinos, we pray before every class. You know, like my siblings and my parents, they would text me and be like, have a good class today. And I'm like, yo, this little kid from Canada, look, like now I'm here in LA, I'm here in Texas, I'm here in Brazil, I'm here in, you know?
Yeah.
Like that was when I was like, yo, God gave me this purpose right now, and it's my time to inspire everyone that paid money to come and see us, you know?
Yeah.
So overall, man, it was like a blessing, bro. Like I get pretty emotional thinking about it, because to get those opportunities just from, you know, watching TV and then having an idea to get a haircut, to now traveling the world with some of the greatest barbers and meeting barbers and hairstylists and people all around the world, telling them my story, much like the story I told you, and pulling on a clipper and be like, this is how I cut hair. You know, like I'm not going to teach you guys anything. I just want to show you how I do it. And people supporting me, and I bring merch on tour, and everyone wanting my pin. Everyone rocking that pin, which, by the way, I'm going to restock on it real soon. Everyone keeps asking me about it. But just the support and the love and like this barber thing, and like I definitely, as the years go by, I want to be an OG. Like I want people to look at me like, yo, that's Famos. Like that's the dude from Canada, you know?
Yeah, nah, definitely. Nah, I remember meeting you in New York at, I want to say, the first BarberCon, and it tripped me out because as soon as I saw you, you was like Groom City, and then soon I went up to you. You straight up shook my hand, and it was one of those Famos pins in your hand. So it's like crazy. Like the Famos pin I actually got it from Famos. So, you know,
yeah,
that was dope. You know,
For
so
sure, respect, man.
I know we made a lot of references to social media. When did you post your first picture on Instagram?
Oh man, so this one girl that I worked with, and mind you, it's like I worked with like a lot of hipster type of girls, you know what I mean? Like vegan, you know, like super light on the makeup, natural hair, riding bikes, drinking coffee type of girls, you know?
Yeah.
And this one girl named Megan, I call her my big sis. She was like, "Oh, Scotty, you should download Instagram." I'm like, "What the hell is that?" And she's like, "Oh, it's you just post pictures and you can share it with your friends." I'm like, "I have Facebook. Why would I do that?" But eventually, like I started hearing more and more about it, so downloaded this app, asked me for a username, and I'm like, what could be a cool username? My big brother always used Famos when we play video games. We always make a video game username. And Famos, all his homies called him that. So I was like, cool. I made an account, Famos, and I posted a picture. It was like a selfie of like, just a picture of me with like the Supreme hat or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like the first picture ever I posted. And that was like 2011 or I don't even know, dude. Something like that. But then these hashtags, like I didn't even understand what a hashtag was until Instagram. I'm like, oh, dope! It's like a folder. So now I checked the hashtag barber. I'm like, whoa, look at all these haircuts all around the world. So now I'm like, yo, dope! I'm gonna follow this guy. I'm gonna follow this guy. I'm gonna follow this guy. And that's pretty much how it started, bro.
So I noticed that some people experience success with social media and some don't. Why do you feel that you experience so much success with social media?
That's a good question, man. Honestly, I would do a lot of those haircuts that would take me more time to do, but I always wanted that wow factor. Like, holy shit! Like, how did that kid do that? How did he do like such a clean fade, but then not have all this gel? Like, I don't know if you remember those comb overs back in the day. It was a clean fade, and they slap on gel and just comb it over to the side.
Yeah.
Like, I have a hairstyling background, so I understand how to manipulate hair with a blow dryer way before any of these barbers started picking up a blow dryer and pretending to be hairstylists. But I started doing a lot of that on social media. Barbershop Connect started reposting a lot of that. And then I started seeing a lot of people do designs. I'm like, yo, I'm actually nice with designs. So I would come up with a really crazy piece. And I was like, yo, you know what? There's this guy I want to meet. His name is Julius Caesar. And he has this crazy Jesus piece tattooed on his arm. And it's by a famous tattoo artist. So what I did was I took that Jesus piece. I drew it on this kid's head. And mind you, there was I had used no color or topic back in the day. I use a bit of that now here and there on certain clients that ask for it. But I posted the picture. I tagged Julius and that tattoo artist, and then they both reposted it. And off of their reposts, I got damn near, like 1,000 plus followers just off of that. So then I was just doing that a lot, bro. And then getting reposts, and like, I'd say my success in the social media, if you're asking number wise, like my following, mainly reposts, bro. Like just getting reposts by big pages. But it was also me doing that intentionally, like Chris Brown follows me because I've done 2 album covers on the back of people's heads. And with the connection of JC cuts his hair, so JC's like my big bro or my cousin, whatever, how the barber community is. But I'm like, yo, JC, show this to Chris. And then he'd be like, yo, Chris fucks with you, bro. Like, he always asks me about you. And I tell him, like, yo, Famos, like, that kid's my cousin, blah, blah, blah. And then next, Chris Brown starts following me. And after I got the Chris Brown follow, I got hella people following me after that. But I always preach, like, just as long as you're good to your clients and you're busy in your chair, you're good. You know what I mean? Like, the old-fashioned way of just your haircuts promoting themselves and just building clientele, But a lot of the time, every time I get a new client, I'm like, yo, how did you hear about me? They'll be like, oh, from so-and-so. But most of the time, it's like, oh, on Instagram. Oh, on Instagram. So, it kind of slowed down for me a bit. I've been going through a lot of personal stuff and lost my pops. And, like, I did kind of slow down on the social media stuff. But I'm going to be getting back on that. I'm definitely scheming right now.
So, after you finished your tour with Pacino's, where did you go from there?
Finished my tour with Pacino's, and this was actually, like, one of the craziest times of my life because the girl that I was with before, I would always tell her that I'm gonna come home, we'll start our family, and I'm sorry I moved away, and this and this and this and this. But now I'm on this tour and I'm experiencing a lifestyle that not too many people get to experience. You know what I mean? Like, just every day a new city we go out after, like the temptations in this world, and like, and I hate to admit these types of things, but I've done things that I shouldn't have done. And when I come home after the tour, I'm not dating her no more. I'm back in my parents' basement, and I have nowhere to work. So I'm like, wow, moved to Montreal, lived this crazy lifestyle, toured the world, crazy lifestyle. Now I come back home and I got nothing, and I'm like, just being a sad boy, like, oh man, like back in my parents' home. But again, how did I build that clientele again? How did I get back on my 2 feet? Right after the tour, came home. I didn't tell anybody I was back in the city. A couple months later, I hit up a friend. He has a boutique store, and he let me cut in the shop for free for 2 months. I ordered a barber chair off of Frankie's Designs, like my dream barber chair. I just slowly got back into it, and I started to build a new clientele. And a couple months later, I decided I wanted to open a shop. So then I was looking for locations everywhere, and after a year of looking for locations, my friend who owned the boutique store was like, "Yo, bro, I'm getting rid of this store. So if you want this location, then it's all yours." So long story short, I turned that boutique, which is now Saint, and now I'm loving it, man. Like, I'm back in my city. My mom's here. I got my family here, and all my clients, and now I'm ready to expand, and I'm still ready to travel, but always come back to my city. And I've had many friends come here. Julius came here, Diego, Bones, Slick Nick, which is LeBron's barber. and everyone that comes to Winnipeg, like, yo, this place is dope, man. Like they definitely like it, and I'm glad I can do that for my city too.
Nah, that's what's up. So why the name Saint for your barbershop?
My last name is Ramos, which is where I got Famos from. But my mom, she always says, "Oh, Anak, you're so much like me. I'm a Santos because I have my mom's build, her lips and her ears, and her personality too. Like she's really like she's out there, you know. And I'm kind of like that too. So she would always tell me I'm a Santos. It means saint, and you know, kind of going back to when I moved back home after living this crazy like rock star lifestyle, really humbling myself, and you know, took a while for me to forgive myself because I was so upset with you know choices that I've made on tour and just in my life in general. But to be able to forgive yourself and move forward, it takes a lot, you know, and to strive to be, we'll never be perfect, but we can always strive to be like a saint every day.
Yeah.
So I mean that is what it to me, you know, it's for my mom, for my family, and I guess for everyone to be the best they can be and to always strive to be closer to a saint. That's the meaning behind it, but the actual logo itself, I love brands like Saint Laurent, and there's a lot of churches here, and I don't know, I just like how the word saint sounds.
Yeah.
I didn't want to call it Scott's Barbershop or Famous Barbershop. My main purpose behind it was to have like a brand that I can play with that doesn't have a pair of scissors on it or anything. So came up with Saints, and now we got this crazy, it's like a dope clothing line that, you know, like the online sales are getting better, but locally everyone rocks the brand. And internationally, when I travel with merch, everyone wants to wear the brand, so it's pretty dope.
You got the science behind branding. It just seems like you really get it.
I'm definitely no branding genius, but less is more, and if it can have a meaning behind it without forcing a meaning behind it, then I think a lot of people will want to support it, and I think that's what builds a brand, is people support, and just a strong, genuine purpose behind it.
No, definitely, I can dig it. So Scott, what's one word that describes you?
Honestly, I would say humble, but everyone says I'm very humble, but I'm not. Like I could be at times, but definitely not humble. I'd say crazy.
Why is that?
I don't know, for the people that know me, I have a really, really, really messed up sense of humor, and I always have the craziest ideas, and I always say I'm gonna do stuff, and like I somehow just do them. So like, I don't think crazy means like crazy doesn't have to be a bad thing. You know, you're crazy if I don't know.
I think crazy's good because that lets me know that you're not gonna stay in between the lines. That you're gonna push the boundaries. You're gonna push the envelope. Those are the people who actually shape the world that we live today. Is people that's crazy.
Yo, that's crazy.
So yeah, I think crazy's dope.
Hell yeah, thanks, man. It was either between that or creative, but I'll take crazy over creative any day.
Now, just following your work, I would say one of them is definitely artists. What I seen you do with makeup and make that portrait of Karuchi, that blew me away, bro.
Bro, I got a whole story behind that.
What's up? Let us know.
So I love Karuchi just because, like, obviously she's fine or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that was the main reason why. I'm not gonna lie, I watched the whole series of Claws on TNT. It's actually a dope show. But no, I obviously heard of Karuchi through Chris, but I was just like, man, this girl's so beautiful, and like just the way she carries herself, and I love her fashion steez, and like she'd post music. So I basically have like a huge crush on this girl. Like I haven't had a crush on like a celebrity or whatever you want to call it since like Beyonce or something like that. Like I don't know. So I was following her, and she came out with this makeup line. So I decided to buy the entire makeup line. I know it cost me like $200 US, which is like 3 something Canadian, on all this makeup. And then I went to the mall, bought a bunch of brushes, and I was actually gonna do makeup on someone to make her look like Karuchi and do the hair. But it was like I tried it and I was like, oh man, like I'm gonna leave the makeup to someone else. So I got another makeup artist to use the same mediums, so the same brushes, the same makeup, and apply that makeup on someone's face to give a Karuchi look. And I did the hair, and then I ended up just drawing Karuchi's face on. I started following all these face chart artists and makeup artists, and a lot of them they do real life portraits using makeup on paper. So I was practicing on paper, and then got my homie to come film it. Again, like a crazy idea. Like, who thinks of that? I was like, I'm gonna buy this makeup online. Go to the Mac store, spend like an hour and a half in there, and spend like $200 on brushes. Go home in my boxers and my Bape hoodie and get my homie to film me drawing a picture of Karuchi using makeup. But I'm like, yo, I'm gonna get Karuchi to like this and comment on it, and that was my goal. And I did it. A couple of days later, she commented and she liked it, and I don't know, I guess mission accomplished, right? But it just shows you that, like, social media, these people, they can see anything. That's why I grabbed Chris Brown's attention. That's why I grabbed Karuchi's attention. Now if I can get the attention of people like that, then I can get the attention of just our everyday regular people like myself. And I was also low-key trying to get Karuchi to fall in love with me, but I don't think that worked.
Man, you know, sometimes you got to add a little more to the campaign.
Oh shit.
You know.
But all jokes aside, you know, if you really look up to a hairstylist or barber and they have Instagram, do a slide in their DM or leave a comment. Or if you're going to that city, call their shop. Be like, listen, I want to meet you. Come up with ideas, like collaborate with barbers and hairstylists locally or internationally. Like, I've done tours with Diego and Julius, like two of my idols. Went on tour with Pacino's. I did a tour with some of Florida's finest barbers. And we did 2 tours, total of 10 cities, just because of starting group chats online, or, you know, flying to a certain city and going to these bar battles, and we're just sitting and just grabbing a drink with everyone and be like, yo, you know, why don't we do this? Yeah, that'd be crazy. Okay, cool. I'm gonna get on this. Then we do this. Next you know, a month later, we're on tour together, right? So there's a lot of things that I still think about and a lot of ideas that I still have. And sometimes I mean, a lot of the time I still feel very discouraged, but I know, like, I have come up with such crazy things and I have followed through with them. So I can share that with you guys. Like, if you have an idea to even come up with like a little product, or even to open a shop, or even a certain design you want to do on someone's head, like, if you dream realistically and set realistic goals, you can honestly accomplish anything.
Definitely. So, Famos, we ask everybody that comes on the Cut Game radio show, if there was a code of conduct for barbers, what code would Famos add to it?
My number one thing is communication and eye contact. Every single client that comes, I give them a hug, hi and bye. And I just feel like that adds a lot to my character, which is why people keep coming back to me. Because besides all this traveling and like certain celebrities that I've cut, at the end of the day, my income and my main source of income are my clients. So if I can treat all of them like family members, that's like the main ingredient to my recipe.
So what I got from it is a code of conduct from Famos is love. You got to show love. Yeah.
What about you, man? What's yours?
Code of conduct, I would say, is be true to yourself and always try to trim the fat off you. You know, so any fatty areas in your life, any fatty areas in your character, trim it off so you can always be the best version of you without all the fatty pieces.
I definitely respect and I agree with your answer as well, man.
Definitely. So, Famos, right now I'm going to give you the stage. I want you to share some real heavy, real deep cut game with our listeners. Drop some cut game on them so it can help further elevate their career.
Invest in your tools, invest in yourself, travel, network with other barbers and stylists. On your break, if you're not busy in the shop, go hand over some cards and get busy. And treat every single client like how you treat your mom or your brother or your sister, and they'll pay you double, triple. Like, know your worth. Give a reason to raise your prices. Just continue elevating your craft and stepping out of your comfort zone. I don't know, just do some fun, creative stuff. But most importantly, spend as much time with your family as you can, with whatever family you have. Love them. If there's a relationship that has been broken, you should mend that. That speaks volumes in your character. Love everybody. Take care of yourself. Love yourself. And that's pretty much it.
Nah, that's what's up. So, what's next for Famos in the next year, 3 years, and 5 years?
So, Saint is growing rapidly. We're going to open another location in the city, which is going to be more half and half, hairstylists and barbers. And I handpick the best of the best, and I make sure that you're no offense, but you have to be Saint worthy to work at Saint. And I'm actually gonna graduate from Famos into Scott Ramos. I'm gonna still keep the Famos Instagram, but much like Paul Mitchell, I'm gonna use my full name and I'm gonna come up with my own product line. But you'll definitely see the comeback of Famos, and I'm coming hard.
That's what's up. Well, man, y'all know he said it earlier. He's scheming. So we all waiting to see what kind of plot you come up with and what kind of scheme you come up with. So, man, I want to thank you, Famos, for blessing us with your presence on the Cut Game Radio Show. Let them know where they can find you and see your work.
Follow me at FAMOS, Famos on Instagram. Please follow my barbershop. It's Saint WPG on Instagram. And come check out our website and buy and support. You could grab a hoodie, some clothes, some hats. And that's We Are Saint, www.wearesaint.com.
Y'all check him out. Famos is one of the rawest out there, trust me. Amazing artist. I mean, his potential is crazy. He has not plateaued. So if y'all wondering about his activity slowing up, just know he has not plateaued. My man got enough potential to, who knows where he can take it. So make sure y'all like, share, follow the Cut Game Radio Show, and make sure y'all leave a review. That just helps with our growth, our ranking. Just helps with the podcast. We're trying to grow this podcast worldwide. So y'all stay groomed, stay elevated, stay motivated. Cut Game Radio Show. We out.
That concludes our show. Please join us next week as we chop up game and share secrets to success on the Cut Game Radio Show.